I'm no ultra successful individual, but I think it's objectively fair to say that success isn't achieved by just showing up every day physically. You also need to show up mentally. This is the exact reason why learning the skill of being able to truly focus and refocus on your everyday tasks is a fundamental skill to learn. In this video, I could merely talk about basic things to increase focus, like how sleep is a fantastic tool to do such, but I'm instead going to discuss more esoteric subtopics and start with the conversation of how we focus. There's three main neurochemicals that allow us to focus: noradrenaline, acetylcholine, and dopamine. Noradrenaline is released from your brain by the locus coeruleus, as well as from your adrenal glands, with the goal of noradrenaline to maintain blood pressure, and it enhances neuron activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is required for focus. There is no focus or concentration without noradrenaline, as without it, other neurochemicals wouldn't be able to function anywhere near as optimally when you try to focus. Think of noradrenaline as the on switch that signals to your brain that it's time to pay attention. You're probably thinking, adrenaline? I thought that was the neurochemical that increases energy and alertness and gives my body the fight or flight response. Now, here's the misconception. Adrenaline isn't the same thing as noradrenaline. That is NOR, adrenaline. Noradrenaline is actually the precursor to adrenaline. When you are stressed, noradrenaline is released, and also potentially adrenaline too if you are really stressed, and loads of cortisol is released. Noradrenaline keeps your brain focused and raises blood pressure to keep you alert. Not much cortisol is needed for its release, but adrenaline on the other hand gives you a burst of energy, your heart rate races, you breathe faster, and your muscles get more blood. A lot of cortisol is needed for this release of adrenaline. An article called "Acute Stress Improves Concentration Performance" shows how acute stress and the release of noradrenaline improves focus. One group was given mundane tasks to do, while the other was given more stressful but not too extreme tasks, like a fake job interview, an arithmetic task, etc. This modest increase in noradrenaline due to the mild release of cortisol really enhanced their focus and concentration. Noradrenaline enhances the two other main neurochemicals used for focus, and subsequently, it really does improve one's focus as a whole. Now, if you think of noradrenaline as the on switch that signals to your brain that it's time to pay attention, think of acetylcholine as the neurochemical that acts as a spotlight on what to actually pay attention to. It highlights specific neurons that you should do to be more active than the other neurons in its environment. While you're looking at me, even though there are other things in your field of view, for example, like a water bottle on your desk, you're probably not paying much attention to that water bottle on your desk. Well, I hope so. And this is due to acetylcholine. It controls the direction of which our concentration and focus is placed. Simple enough, right? Noradrenaline and acetylcholine are the main neurochemicals used to focus, but to be able to have ongoing focus, we're going to need a third neurochemical, and that neurochemical is dopamine. I made an entire video discussing how dopamine is the molecule of pleasure, but what many people forget is that dopamine is also the molecule of motivation. Excuse me. Dopamine is the neurochemical that allows you to focus for an extended period of time. Without it, we would lose focus quite quickly and rapidly. You can't always find fun in the things you need to focus on, but this is the price you have to pay if you want to achieve the goals you are trying to pursue. It's not all sunshine and rainbows along the way. These are the three main neurochemicals, so noradrenaline, acetylcholine, and dopamine, that allow you to get focus very precisely, and to maintain that focus for a long time. Now, the way that neurochemicals work is we don't just get to flip switches in our brain because we decide to and start focusing. That's a fantasy. There's a gradual drop in at any state, whether or not that state is focus, sleep, exercise, etc. For example, I'm going to talk about this in my sleep video that I'm posting next. You can't just boom, sleep on the spot unless you're extremely sleep deprived. There's numerous stages of sleep. There's 4 in fact, where you gradually go into that sleep. You can't just get REM sleep straight away unless, like I said, you are extremely sleep deprived, and that is of course a major exception. You can't run a marathon very optimally without a warm-up, which is another analogy. It's the same thing for focus. You need to be mindful that it takes time and patience to get into the zone as such. You're also going to be continuously going in and out of progressively but varying levels of focus. People who are very good at focusing understand that occasionally our focus will flicker, but that's a big part of focus. It's the ability to go back to focusing, as losing focus is completely natural and links to how the neurochemical of dopamine actually works, as well as mental fatigue. Focusing is an ability, and just think of it of every time you refocus on your work as an opportunity to engage the neural circuits of your brain and train your ability to focus over time through neuroplasticity. So I've discussed how noradrenaline, acetylcholine, and dopamine are the 3 main neurochemicals of focus and what each neurochemical specifically does. Now I'm going to move on and discuss how the physical stimuli, which you can see with your eyes, can impact your focus. The less physical stimuli you can see with your eyes that aren't being used to help with what you're focusing on, the easier it becomes, I should say, to focus and not become distracted. This has led to many wearing hoodies and hats to limit their visual field and be less distracted from the things around them, since visual focus is followed by mental focus. It's currently summer right now, and it's not really something I personally do, but I make sure, say, my phone isn't on my table in front of me to distract me, or other things I might find interesting, like a Rubik's Cube or something like that. I'm not really into Rubik's Cube, but you get my analogy, right? As you feel your attention starting to drift, make sure you maintain strong visual focus on the thing you're trying to learn. Feel free to blink, but also know that, generally speaking, the more you blink, the more you're tired. So just be wary of that. When you first wake up in the morning, notice how you may continuously blink to stay awake, hence to show my point that you blink more when you're tired. Blinking less while staring improves focus, but of course don't blink so little that it's painful for your eyes. The reason that physical stimuli impacts your focus is because dopamine and acetylcholine are weakened when the body is intaking too much physical stimuli during attempts to focus. For example, if your desk is cluttered or your window is open with moving traffic, or if your room is filled with flashing light. These are all examples of how physical stimuli can disrupt and distract both the neurochemical of dopamine and acetylcholine. It's the reason why I personally agree with many studies that are now coming out linking social media algorithms to one of the reasons for dramatically increasing diagnoses of ADHD far beyond population increase percentages. When you're on social media, like TikTok for example, you're completely unfocused as a product of how it targets acetylcholine, dopamine, and even noradrenaline. TikTok thrives on offering quick, bite-sized content that provides instant gratification. Each video is often only a few seconds long, giving you a rapid dopamine hit as you scroll through endless novel content. This constant release of dopamine encourages reward-seeking behavior and makes it harder to engage in tasks that require prolonged focus. As you get more dopamine from scrolling through videos, it becomes harder to sustain attention on tasks that don't offer immediate rewards, like studying or working on long-term projects. Because why would you give effort for dopamine when you can just get it instantly, right? TikTok is also highly stimulating. The constant switch between videos requires your brain to shift attention frequently, which can disrupt your ability to focus deeply on a single task. Acetylcholine, the neurochemical responsible for maintaining sustained attention, is less effective when the brain is continuously exposed to such rapid stimuli. When you are scrolling through TikTok, think of it as though you were pulling a lever to a slot machine, getting dopamine hit after dopamine hit. And when you see a TikTok that you don't like every couple of scrolls, that makes you want a dopamine hit even more, because you just didn't get a dopamine hit from that specific scroll, that specific reel, or whatever a TikTok's called nowadays. Keep in mind as well, you are likely not able to remember a TikTok you saw 5 scrolls ago. And this is directly due to that lack of focus, that lack of acetylcholine in your system. Scrolling through social media is like constantly eating fast food. When you consume fast food or sugary snacks, it gives you an instant rush of energy, similar to the quick dopamine hit you get from scrolling through TikTok. These snacks are designed to be immediately satisfying, just like the bite-sized content on social media that provides immediate gratification. However, much like junk food, which lacks essential nutrients, social media doesn't offer any real long-term value for you while decreasing your focus and productivity. There are of course exceptions to this, like you may come across a TikTok video that you find or an Instagram video that you find that can genuinely help your life, but think of it like a stat of your character's ability in a video game. You have numerous stats about your character, for example the level of your speed, strength, intelligence, and so on, and one of your stats is your ability to focus and refocus. The level of this stat goes down and generally loses XP when you pursue doom scrolling, as many have termed it, on social media, and hence your ability to focus and refocus decreases. I'll discuss in a little bit how to gain XP as such and improve the level of your ability to refocus and just focus in general. Keep in mind as well that hedonism and instant gratification is addictive, only making you lose more and more ability to focus and refocus, since repetition creates routine. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It quite literally is about not being able to be great at focusing and refocusing, which exactly is what excessive social media use leads to. According to the FDA and DEA, dispensing of ADHD stimulants grew 45.5% from 2012 to 2021. I've looked at numerous independent datasets to determine how greatly ADHD cases are rising, and although the figures vary slightly on how much the rate is increasing, it most certainly is, as you can see here in this figure that I have now put on screen. Like with almost any condition, ADHD has multiple causes, which include genetics, trauma, sugar intake, which has also dramatically increased over the last 50 years, and so on. I personally believe that one of the major reasons for the increase in ADHD over the past decade is the highly addictive social media algorithms that these multi-billion pound companies, big companies, I'm struggling to actually show how big they are. You get what I mean? Have strategically constructed to deeply target your acetylcholine, dopamine, and even noradrenaline. So I've discussed the actual neurochemicals responsible for creating and maintaining focus. I've discussed how visual stimuli can impact such focus, and I've discussed my personal opinion that excessive social media use is one contributing reason that I believe there is an increase of ADHD worldwide. Now, I shall discuss methods that improve your ability to focus, and I'll start with meditation. I've discussed meditation in great detail in my second ever video. A key highlight in this video was when I discussed how Dr. Wendy Suzuki study from New York University showed a daily 13-minute meditation that took place for 8 weeks showed that meditation can improve focus. I should mention that improvements of focus began before the end of the 8-week period, and also that you shouldn't meditate too close to bedtime, as meditation is a focusing and refocusing exercise, which therefore can keep you awake at night. Also, just like with anything you are trying to focus on, you are of course going to lose focus during meditation. Just keep refocusing, and think of the refocusing part of meditation as a trigger for teaching your neural circuits. I keep burping. How to focus for extended periods of time. It's all the eggs I've been having. I find it's quite gassy, but we love eggs, so we're still going to eat them anyway. Now, listening to sound is also a very popular method used to increase focus. For example, 40 Hz binaural beats have been shown in a number of peer-reviewed studies to improve focus and concentration. This is in part because it increases levels of dopamine and acetylcholine. White, pink, and brown noise have similarly been shown to help people's ability to transition into states of concentration and focus. I remember when I was in sixth form, I used to listen to brown noise while studying all the time, as it helped block out all external noise around me. Ultradian cycles are another thing that many people utilize to improve focus. Ultradian cycles are natural rhythms in your body, lasting approximately 90 minutes, during which your brain and body move through peaks and troughs of energy and focus. It is theorized that you should do deep focus on work aligned to those ultradian cycles. Focus requires a lot of metabolic energy. Your brain is the chief consumer of metabolic energy, with your brain being a glutton with respect to caloric need. For this reason, many theorize you should do deep focusing work for approximately 90 minutes, one ultradian cycle that is, and after which you potentially feel rather tired or even exhausted. Take at least 10 minutes and ideally as long as 30 minutes to deliberately defocus and do things that don't require a ton of your concentration before doing another 90-minute ultradian cycle of deep focusing work again. Keep in mind that this is for deep focusing work. If you're just doing menial tasks, you don't need to split this into 90-minute ultradian cycles. This concept believes that the period of idling is essential for your ability to focus, much in the same way that rest between sets of resistance training or rest between exercise is vital to being able to focus and perform during the actual sets of or during the actual bouts of running or cycling or whatever you are doing. Deliberate decompression is key. Furthermore, the first 10 to 15 minutes of that ultradian cycle is often a warm-up, Just going to back to that analogy, previously, you can't run a marathon without warming up first. You gotta slowly go into it. Not too slowly that you're being unproductive, but just realize that you can't just boom, go straight into deep focus. You can do some focus, of course, but normally you can't just go boom, I'm zen, you know? Now, many people then subsequently ask how many ultradian cycles you should be doing deep focusing work for. Neurobiologist and ophthalmologist Andrew Huberman shared how we can do about 3 90-minute ultradian cycles per day. So that will be 4.5 hours, as well as all the slight breaks. So a total to about 5.5 hours if you're doing 10 to 30-minute breaks in between. Obviously, you have to eat and do other such things in that day, but yeah, of actual work, that is his schedule. And this does seem to be about the average of what the average person can do. Keep in mind, some people can do more, and some people can focus deeply for less amount of time. Remember though, that this is for deep focus. I think I've stressed that a lot about, and you of course can focus for longer than this, but just not as deeply. There are other studies out there that shows doing deep focus in bouts via ultradian cycles aren't optimal. And so, just like with many things I've discussed on this channel, you need to find what works best for you and only you. I want to quickly mention that ultradian cycles will also be discussed in my topic of sleep, which will be the final video I make on this channel, so stay tuned for that. I did say how I want to avoid basic concepts in this video, like how getting sufficient sleep is fundamental to achieve great focus. But I do want to quickly note that if you're experiencing sleep deprivation, NSDR can help with you focusing under these conditions, although getting sleep is of course still preferred. I'm now going to finish this video talking about how diet impacts focus, before concluding everything I have discussed in this video at the end. Reducing highly processed foods, for example ice cream, sweets, chips, etc., really does seem to improve symptoms of ADHD in both children and adults. In fact, sugar intake is now widely believed by most professionals in the industry to be one of the main causes of ADHD as well. If this is a topic that interests you, I have talked about sugar in a lot of detail in my video on carbohydrates, since sugar is actually a carbohydrate. If this interests you, I greatly recommend that you watch it. Consuming sufficient omega-3s and creatine, which many people are greatly deficient in, by the way, is amazing at improving focus as well. Even water, which your brain is about 75% of, can impair cognitive functions when you are even mildly dehydrated. Make sure you always have a water bottle around you. Metal water bottle from my extra generation video. Make sure it's not plastic to not get the BPA or BPS or whatever other else harmful chemicals could get into your stream. Oh, make sure it's filtered as well. Get in your electrolytes. If you're more interested in the hydration topic, yeah, just give the hydration video a watch and give the estrogenics video a watch as well while you're at it. Consuming coffee, which I've also made a video on, can greatly improve focus and concentration. With the dosage, of course, depending on how caffeine adapted you are, and of course how old you are as well. Caffeine is known to increase the density and efficiency of dopamine receptors because of how caffeine inhibits adenosine in your system. Caffeine reduces the sedative effects of adenosine, indirectly enhancing neuronal activity and energy levels, creating a more favorable environment for focus. This increased neuronal activity enhances dopamine signaling, increasing acetylcholine by enhancing neuron excitability, and even stimulates the nervous system leading to the release of noradrenaline. This is the end of the video, and the sources that I've used will be in the description alongside the things that are relevant to this video, but I've not included, but discovered in the research. This video, 25, maybe 26 minutes long. I'm not going to do a single cut in this video, well, maybe one or two, but notice how I've had constant focus throughout. Yes, there was a couple times I slipped up. I wanted to check the time, I wanted to make sure my mic was still recording, I wanted to do whatever else. But overall, I sustained focus and refocus because the neurochemicals of acetylcholine, noradrenaline, and dopamine truly did help me. See you later.